Leona kicked up dirt and grass as she dug into the yard behind the barn. Several other holes littered the yard, all spread out in a seemingly random pattern. The dog had done her best to make the place look like an absolute war zone. At that moment, Applejack was pulling in a cart of freshly bucked apples towards the barn. She heard the sounds of Leona's vandalism and went around back to check. "Leona, y'all better not be digging the..." Applejack rounded the corner to see the yard practically turned upside down, with dirt still being kicked out of one of the holes. "Leona!" Applejack's dog peeked her head out of the hole and barked before she jumped out and took off towards Ponyville. That little distraction probably cost her a few nights of sleeping on the porch, but it was worth the fun. It also served the secondary purpose of keeping Applejack away from the market, since she would be the only one to pay attention to Leona running through the stalls. It didn't take long for the border collie to meet the outer reaches of the marketplace. She slowed down and perked her ears up as she passed the pear stand. She was always amazed by what secrets ponies could let loose in the open just because it was noisy. It was there she had learned that Pinky was the one who had eaten the wedding cake whole, that Derpy was the one who caved in that condemned house by accident, and that Spike was the one who used a book from a rare book section as an emergency hanky. Gossip was always a good gauge to determine whether or not it was worth spending the effort to expand her listening area. The juicy bits she had heard thus far were a good sign, and she left the market for one of the fields outside of Ponyville. She came to a stop next to a plain old stump, long since dead and otherwise completely unremarkable. "Bark!" The stump said nothing in reply. "Bark! Bark!" Nothing but the background noises of a summer day filled the air. She barked once more, and the stump suddenly flew open on a hinge, revealing the metal frame and handle on the underside. She jumped in, making sure she closed the trapdoor above her. She slid down the earthy tunnel she had dug herself until she was thrown into a rather cramped oval room at least 100 feet below the ground. The entire area was dominated by a machine that Leona had reverse engineered from a certain contraption of Twilight's used to detect brain waves. It wasn't easy sneaking into the library to steal the blueprints, but the end result was worth the effort. It looked almost exactly like the original, save for a menacing black coat of paint and a few extra blinking lights. What really made the improved machines shine was the addition of a small, funnel-like object that stuck out of it. It was Leona's bread and butter. It was difficult without any thumbs or magic, but she managed to fit the funnel into one of her ears and began to play with a small dial on the machine, slowly going over the frequencies. When it came to actual worthwhile information, Ponyville was pretty much useless. She turned the dial farther right, and soon Manhattan started to come in. "Hey, Ma, we gotta get this cargo moved by tomorrow." Leona recognized the voice. It was Black Olive, one of the big bosses of the Pombino crime family. They were mostly small time, but their operations did have a nasty habit of cutting into Syndicate profits. She fine-tuned the dial. "That joke ain't gonna move itself, ya babio. If this stuff isn't on its way to Las Pegasus the next hour, I'm gonna make you sleep with the sea ponies." Leona's ears twitched. Poison joke? The Syndicate controlled approximately 2/3 of the poison joke fields in the country. Where did the Pombinos get the shipment? She growled at the possibility they had discovered one of their fields and stolen their cargo. No matter. She took off the listening device and began to toy with a number pad on the machine. When the sequence was complete, she hovered a paw over a large green button that read "Translate" and pressed it. The dial tone began to sound, and she waited. Black Olive was in the middle of rehearsing a speech to his father about how he outsmarted the Syndicate when the phone at the warehouse started to ring. That was not supposed to happen, since Black Olive had used his connections to make sure that the number was taken off of the phone books. It was probably one of his idiot cousins asking for money. He stomped over to the phone and yanked it into his ear. "Yeah, Mr. Olive." Black Olive cocked an eyebrow. He didn't recognize the lady's voice. "Yeah? We at the Syndicate are committed to supplying Equestria with the finest exotic goods and unconventional services. I think we both know that your competition is nothing more than an annoyance. If you stop your little shipment now, the Syndicate will be willing to pretend this whole thing never happened." "How did you get this number?" The voice chuckled. "The Syndicate knows many things, Black Christopher Olive." Black Olive gritted his teeth. How in Tatars do you know my... "The choice is yours, Mr. Olive. If you refuse, well, I'm sure the cleaner will be delighted to pay you a visit." No. That'll be fine. I'll call it off." Black Olive stayed on the line, expecting some kind of reply. All he heard in response was a strange breathing sound. Are you panting?" No. Good day, Mr. Olive." The mysterious caller hung up. Black Olive slowly turned away from the phone with a defeated slouch and walked over to his subordinates to break the bad news to them. As he opened his mouth, his resolve faltered. Who was he, taking orders from a phone? He was part of the Pombino family. Even the Syndicate couldn't take that away from him. "All right, boys," he shouted. "We're moving out." Even from hundreds of miles away and under 100 feet of soil, Leona heard the pony's defiant orders. So he wanted to play hardball, eh? Fine. The cleaner was about overdue for an assignment anyway.